All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to put on our lead engineer hats and run a massive, deep-level audit of a hidden vulnerability, one that exists right inside our own mental and spiritual programming. Normally we walk around assuming we're free-thinking individuals, totally in control of our choices and our worldview. But the source text we're looking at today forces us to confront a pretty terrifying counter-perspective. What if you're actually running on an operating system that was installed without your conscious consent?
So before we even start the system scan, I want you to seriously ask yourself this question. Are you actually managing your life, or are you just a node in a hidden system? Are your thoughts truly your own, or are you operating on a corrupted script that you just inherited blindly? In our day-to-day lives, it is incredibly easy to play the role of the independent thinker. We think we're making choices, but are you truly choosing your values? Or are you just running a script handed down by society, your social media feed, or just historical momentum? Because if we dig just a tiny bit beneath the surface, we start to uncover this deeply entrenched framework. It's a whole system of inherited interpretations and assumptions that subtly guide literally every move we make.
And that brings us to our main objective today. We are going to reverse engineer perception itself. We're going to dismantle the inherited mental programming of what the source text explicitly calls the satanic system. Now, this isn't just about spotting a few bad habits. This is the process of decompiling an entire architecture of illusion. We're going to strip away the false logic, and step by step, we'll rebuild our understanding directly from the ultimate source code.
To do this properly, we're going to run this diagnostic in 4 strict phases: detecting the hidden system, mapping the architecture of deception, simulating the system crash, and finally installing the recovery code. Let's get right into it. Phase 1. Detecting the hidden system. Let's see exactly how this false programming infiltrates our fundamental perception of reality.
The very first thing we notice when we analyze the source material is this incredibly strict binary. Our normal surface-level assumption is that our world is this chaotic battleground of hundreds of competing religions, philosophies, and ideologies. It's a spectrum, right? But the source text collapses that entirely. The battle isn't actually between different religions. It's a stark binary conflict between a single illuminating light of truth, the source, and the multiple darknesses of earthly systems. The truth is singular. The malware, on the other hand, relies completely on fragmentation. It thrives on guesswork, personal desires, and endlessly multiplying systems that just keep you stumbling around in the dark.
Now, how does the hack actually work? The specific technique used to hack your perception is identified in the text as زخرف القول, which roughly translates to decorated or gilded speech. See, we tend to think of deception as this obvious, blatant lie, but the source reveals that the glitch is far, far more subtle. Think of it like a highly sophisticated phishing scam. It uses shiny, deceptive framing. We're talking beautifully constructed arguments, impressive academic terminology, or even deeply religious-sounding rhetoric. It dresses up human programming to look exactly like divine truth. You think you are following the light, but you're actually just mesmerized by the golden frame of the malware. To keep you completely distracted from the actual light, the system floods your bandwidth with what we can call the fake code. The source material points to the maze of the 8 pairs. This is a reference to endless, trivial debates about superficial technicalities and hypotheticals. It's a deliberate overload of your mental processor. And why would the system do this? Because if you are busy arguing about microscopic rules and theoretical guesswork, you aren't looking at the grand architecture. You are successfully distracted. By drowning you in technical disputes, the system severs your connection to the ultimate source.
So what actually happens to a user whose system gets compromised? The text categorizes them powerfully into 2 states. First, you have the homula, the blind carrier. This is a person who carries vast amounts of knowledge, literally like a beast burdened with heavy books, but comprehends none of it. They have all the data, sure, but absolutely no processor. The second category is the farsh, which means the furnishing or the floorboards. This is the ultimate passive user who simply walks blindly behind the crowd. They're the human equivalent of blindly scrolling to the bottom of a 50-page agreement and clicking accept without reading a single word. They literally become the floorboards that the false system walks all over.
Okay, moving to phase 2, the architecture of deception. Having identified the malware, we have to trace the hacker's network by decompiling the hierarchy of this false system.
A really common assumption is that deception is just random chaos happening organically in society, but it's not. Deception is a highly structured, top-down hierarchy, a satanic pyramid. Here is the complete architectural map. We are going to rapidly deconstruct this structure, layer by psychological layer, to understand exactly how this control is maintained.
Right at the very top, we have Layer 1, Iblis. This represents the original corrupt code. His foundational input was a false logic of arrogance, the thought that I am better than him, which relies on a totally flawed material comparison. Now, this ego-driven glitch is then downloaded by Layer 2, the programmer, represented by the figure of Samiri. Samiri's function is to engineer a parallel, soulless religion. This is such a profound insight from the text. He takes a piece of genuine truth, mixes it heavily with human desire, and constructs a shiny system that makes a lot of noise but has absolutely zero spiritual life or soul.
The crucial point is how this programming builds downward to control the masses. Layer 3 is authority, embodied by Pharaoh. His programming dictates reality by suppressing independent thought. It's actually a lot like modern authoritarianism or the fear-based enforcement of cancel culture. He dictates, I show you only what I see. But fear isn't enough on its own. You also need Layer 4, distraction, engineered by Haman. Haman's role is to build massive, complex material structures. He weaponizes technology and endless material consumption to keep the population constantly looking outward, totally distracted from the simple internal truth of the creator.
And finally, we hit Layer 5, Karun. He injects the ultimate illusion of self-sufficiency through wealth, basically convincing people that their success is entirely due to their own brilliance. But guys, here is the great irony of this massive machine. It has no battery of its own. It is entirely fueled by the bottom layers. The power comes directly from the enablers who justify the tyranny, and the vast ocean of everyday users who blindly surrender their autonomy. Without the bottom layers clicking accept on the programming, the top layers literally have no power whatsoever.
That brings us to Phase 3, the inevitable system crash. Because at the end of the day, no matter how grand the architecture is, a system built on a glitch is mathematically destined to fail.
This simulates the terrifying, inevitable log-out moment. We usually picture the collapse of falsehood as some explosive Hollywood destruction sequence, but the source describes it differently, as a total, devastating psychological unplugging. When the false programming finally crashes, all the material ties, all the social networks, and all the hierarchies instantly melt away. The chief hacker abruptly and violently severs his connection to all his followers.
The ultimate betrayal of this system is captured right here in this devastating truth code from the source. The architect of the deception says, I had no authority over you except that I invited you and you responded to me, so do not blame me. Let that sink in for a second. We spend our entire lives thinking the system is forcing us, overpowering us. But the decompiled truth is that the system never had actual, overriding authority over your mind. It merely bypassed your firewall because you voluntarily clicked accept. You handed over your autonomy.
Which leads us to Phase 4, installing the recovery code. Now that we've uninstalled the malware, we can't just leave our minds blank. We have to reboot perception and rebuild our understanding directly from the source. We see that the solution to a corrupted system isn't more arguing or trying to patch the malware with other human programs. The solution is returning directly to the source's recovery code. In the context of Surat Al-An'am, this is presented as a specific set of divine commandments, and it's crucial to understand. These are not arbitrary, burdensome restrictions. They are fundamental structural laws designed specifically to protect the mind, the soul, and society from systemic corruption. Let's look at the critical patches in this divine code. The very first line of code is to reconnect exclusively to the singular source. Next, the code demands that you honor your human roots through kindness to your parents. Finally, it mandates respecting the sacred boundaries of life itself. Now, why these three specifically? Because exclusive connection to the source stops top-down hacking from false authorities. Honoring human roots stops sideways social fragmentation. And respecting life protects the biological hardware itself. They are the absolute baseline operating requirements for a healthy human soul. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate firewall against all future hacks. The source text commands holding tightly and directly to the rope of Allah, which represents direct revelation. What does this mean in a practical sense? It means you do not allow any middleman, any supposed expert of the false system, or any decorated speaker to interpret reality for you. You grip the primary code yourself. Your salvation, your clarity, that is your responsibility alone.
Once you've successfully rebooted, the system requires a declaration. You must declare the ultimate manifesto of autonomy. Indeed, my prayer, my rites of sacrifice, my living and my dying are for Allah, Lord of the worlds. This right here is the ultimate declaration of independence from the satanic matrix. By dedicating your entire existence solely to the singular source, you ensure that absolutely no secondary earthly authority, no pharaoh, and no corporation shares access to your operating system. As we synthesize our entire diagnostic today, we can clearly see the choice laid out before us. It's totally binary. On one side, we have the malware, wandering blindly, stumbling frantically on divergent, fragmented paths with a heart that the source describes as literally dead, disconnected, and entirely unperceptive. On the other side, we have the recovery code, walking the single, illuminated, straight path with a heart fully alive, pulsating with insight, and completely immune to the decorated speech of the world.
So we have successfully decompiled the hidden system. We've smashed the mental idols and revealed the cheap tricks of the programmer. The final, ultimate truth that emerges from this entire source code is about your true identity. You were not designed to be a passive node in a dark system. You were designed to be the Khalifa, the autonomous successor, the active steward of reality, the agent of light on Earth.
The system is now fully exposed, and the recovery code is resting right there in your hands. The debate is over, and the diagnostic is complete. So the only question left to ask yourself is this: will you remain as blind furnishing for a system that is mathematically destined to crash, or will you activate your true code and step out into the light as the autonomous Khalifa you were built to be? The choice of what you do next determines the ultimate fate of your reality. Take this information, process it, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.